President Ibrahim Traoré's words are not just a message, they are a movement. In an era where the voices of African leaders are often diluted by external interests, Traoré's unfiltered statements pierce through the noise like a call to arms. His speeches are not polished PR products crafted in air-conditioned rooms. They are raw, fierce, and rooted in the suffering and strength of his people. When he speaks, it is not just as a politician, but as a son of the soil, a soldier turned servant of the people, and a young leader who has dared to challenge the global order. Burkina Faso, a landlocked nation in West Africa, has long suffered under the weight of exploitation, first from colonial rule, then from post-independence, corruption, and now from modern forms of neo-colonialism, masked as aid, partnerships, or counter-terrorism. For decades, the country has battled poverty, terrorism, and systemic neglect. It became a silent ground for foreign powers to play their geopolitical games, while ordinary Burkinab paid the price with their lives, their dignity, and their future. Then came Ibrahim Traoré, a 34-year-old military captain who rose to power, not through wealth or privilege, but through courage, discipline, and a burning desire to reclaim the destiny of his people. When he assumed power in a coup in 2022, the world took notice. Many criticized, others dismissed, but few truly listened. Those who did realized something was different. He was a man who did not beg for Western validation, who did not speak in rehearsed diplomatic tones, who looked the world in the eye and demanded justice. His words, delivered in French, translated, echoed, and circulated on social media, soon became the voice of not just Burkina Faso, but a broader African consciousness. "We are not your backyard," he declared. "Burkina Faso is not part of the USA. We are not your colony. Leave us alone." These statements, simple as they may seem, carried the weight of centuries. They were not just bold, they were necessary. For too long, African countries have been seen as mere resources of minerals, of manpower, of markets. Foreign troops arrive under the guise of peacekeeping or fighting terrorism. Yet the violence continues, and the mines keep operating under foreign flags. President Traoré laid bare this contradiction. He questioned why countries rich in gold, uranium, and other resources remain the poorest in the world. He called out the hypocrisy of powerful nations who preach democracy while propping up dictators or undermining true reformers. But beyond critique, Traoré offered something else: hope. He emphasized unity, Pan-African solidarity, and the power of youth. Under his leadership, Burkina Faso began reasserting control over its territory. He forged stronger alliances with neighbors who shared his vision. He prioritized local development, community defense, and cultural pride. The people, long disillusioned, began to believe, again, not just in a leader, but in themselves. This transformation did not come without cost. Sanctions, diplomatic pressure, and smear campaigns followed. Traoré was painted in some international media as anti-democratic, aggressive, or impulsive, but to many Africans, he became a symbol of resistance. He spoke truths that few dared to utter, and he did not flinch. His bravery reminded them of Thomas Sankara, Burkina Faso's former revolutionary leader, who once dreamed of an Africa that would feed itself, clothe itself, and govern itself. Sankara's dream was cut short by bullets, but Traoré picked up the torch. What makes Traoré's movement even more powerful is that it is not based on blind nationalism. He does not preach hatred or isolation. Instead, he urges fairness. He asks, why should foreign companies earn billions from our soil, while our children starve? Why should decisions about our future be made in Paris, Washington, or Brussels, and not in Ouagadougou? Why is dignity too much to ask for? These questions resonated beyond Burkina Faso's borders. Young Africans from Senegal to the Democratic Republic of Congo, from Mali to Niger, began seeing themselves in Traoré's words. They, too, felt the sting of inequality, the weight of foreign interference, the betrayal of local elites. Traoré's rise wasn't just political, which was cultural, emotional, and generational. Asterisk, his movement is not defined by a political party or an ideology. It's a movement of hearts and minds, of people tired of being spectators in their own stories. It's a movement that demands Africa be more than a continent of suffering. It demands that Africa be heard not as a victim, but as a force. Asterisk, Traoré understands the power of communication. He does not rely on scripted speeches, but speaks from experience. He visits villages, stands with soldiers, sits with elders, and listens to youth. He does not hide behind podiums. He walks among his people, and because of that, they listen. When he says we will not be slaves, they believe him. Not because he promises miracles, but because he tells the truth. Asterisk, but truth is dangerous, especially when it threatens entrenched interests. Traoré's stance on cutting ties with certain international forces raised eyebrows. His decisions to diversify alliances, looking to Russia, China, and other non-Western partners caused geopolitical ripples. But he made it clear, Burkina Faso would no longer be dictated to. It would choose its own friends, based on respect and mutual benefit. Asterisk, this independence did not mean isolation. On the contrary, Traoré pushed for deeper cooperation with neighboring countries facing similar struggles. Together with Mali and Niger, he began forging a new alliance, rooted in African solutions to African problems. This unity was not born in think tanks, but in trenches, where soldiers fought side by side against terrorism and foreign-backed destabilization. Asterisk, the youth, often dismissed as passive or apathetic, rose in response. Across campuses, in rural towns, and in digital spaces, Traoré's words became mantras. We are capable. We deserve better. The future is ours. These weren't slogans, they were declarations of intent. A new African identity was being born, one that was proud, unapologetic, and forward-looking. Asterisk, international observers may scoff. They may label this wave as populism, or even dangerous nationalism. But what they miss is the pain behind the passion. Traoré's generation grew up witnessing the failures of imported systems, the broken promises of democracy without development, the humiliation of being told how to live, how to govern, and even how to mourn. Asterisk, this movement is not about rejecting the world, it's about asserting a place in it. It's about saying that Africa does not need saviors, it needs partners, that its people are not experiments, but equals. That history may have been written in colonizers' ink, but the future will be written by Africans. Asterisk, of course, challenges remain. The fight against terrorism continues. The economy needs rebuilding. Institutions require strengthening. Traoré knows this. He does not claim to have all the answers, but he has something rare: vision, and the courage to pursue it. Asterisk, critics may point to the military origin of his leadership, but even they must admit that he has shown more honesty and resolve than many elected officials. He has opened channels for civilian participation, insisted on transparency, and stayed grounded in his mission. In a time where leadership often means compromise, Traoré's authenticity stands out. Asterisk, in the villages of Burkina Faso, elders now tell stories of this young captain who stood up to empires. Children chant his name, not because he is a savior, but because he gave them pride. Pride in who they are, pride in where they come from, and hope for where they are going. Asterisk, in the eyes of the world, Traoré may still be controversial, but to millions, he is necessary. He is not just a president, he is a symbol of awakening, of refusal, of rebirth. Asterisk, and that is why his words matter. They are not just a message to his people. They are a challenge to the world. A challenge to listen, to understand, and most importantly, to respect. Because Africa is rising, and its voice raw, real, and resolute is finally being heard. Asterisk, this is not just about one man or one nation. It is about a continent reclaiming its voice. It is about a people saying, enough. We are not your charity case. We are not your experiment. We are not